Hi guys, today I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to observe and photograph iridium flares. Basically what an iridium flare is, it's when a satellite in the night sky becomes super bright for a few seconds, which is why it's called a flare. And oftentimes they can become the brightest thing in the entire night sky for a few seconds. They happen pretty frequently, at least once every couple days, so they're a good object to see and to show your friends, your family, maybe to even impress a date. So let's get into it. So to find an iridium flare, there are several websites that will tell you when they're going to happen. I'm going to use a website called Heavens Above. This website also gives you predictions for the space station, the Hubble Space Telescope. You can see it has the current position of the space station right here. So it's a cool website. You should definitely explore it. For us, the most important thing is to go to the top right and change your location first off. So I live near the University of Arizona, so that's what I search. I see that it gets that correct. I check the time zone, and then I update that. You need to do it within a few miles of your true location, otherwise you're never going to get correct predictions. So super important. After that, I go to satellites, to iridium flares, click that, boom, and it gives me a list of iridium flares for the next week or so. Alright, so what does this information mean? Well, the first thing I want you to notice is that the times are in 24-hour time. So if it says 4:59, that's 4:59 a.m. Other than that, there's a few more important columns, and those are brightness, distance to the flare center, and brightness at the flare center. For brightness, lower numbers are brighter and better. So minus 5.9 is brighter than minus 2.7, is brighter than minus 0.6. So now what if you want to see a flare but it's kind of dim? Well, that's where the other two columns come in. Iridium flares have a flare center where they are brightest. So brightness at the flare center is how bright it will be if you move there, and distance is how far away it is. So with this in mind, go ahead and click on the time for the flare you want to go watch. If you scroll down, you'll see a map of the flare center I was just talking about. So this red line is the flare center, and if I want the best show, all I have to do is move onto that red line. After that, you can scroll up and you'll see a star chart for where the flare will happen. And this is where knowing your constellations can be helpful, because for example, if I know the constellation Aquarius, it will be easy to find this flare. If you don't know them very well, it's okay, because you can still use the cardinal directions, and you can see that this flare happens pretty much due south. Also, the azimuth and altitude are listed below. Sweet, so now you're pretty much ready to go outside and see the flare. Just make sure you remember when and where it's going to happen. So let me give you a few more tips once you get outside. The first is, of course, to get to your location early so that you have plenty of time to set up and get a nice viewing spot. You should be able to see the satellite 30 seconds to a minute before it actually peaks. So for the observer, this gives you a chance to look around, make sure that you're not looking in the wrong direction, and for the photographer, this gives you a chance to see the satellite and make any last corrections to your camera position. If you want to capture trails like this, you should aim for long exposures of 20 seconds to a minute. That means that you're going to need a camera with manual exposure modes or even a bulb mode. You should know the time of the flare down to the second. And that's going to allow you to trigger your exposure so that it's even over the peak of the flare. You don't want to have the flare peak right at the end of the photograph. That would be bad. So I recommend using wider lenses, and the reason for that is that if you zoom in too much, it's going to become rather uninteresting, like you can see in this photo. Also, wider lenses allow you to put a foreground into the image. So in this image, I have Old Main and the University of Arizona campus and an iridium flare. Because iridium flares are so bright, you can safely use lower ISOs like 800, 400, even lower, sometimes 100. There's really no maximum ISO, just as long as you don't overexpose anything else in your image. So that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope my tips are useful, and I wish you good luck in observing.